over the internet, I always hear many relationship coach, if not all, and married people always say that love is not enough to make a marriage last and work. But yet the word of God says that love never fails. So someone is lying, and it isn't God. The issue isn't love itself. Maybe it's the way that we've learned how to love. Today, I want to walk you through what biblical love actually looks like and why it does have the power to transform any relationship. Welcome, everybody, to the Ease Your Mind podcast. My name is Christina Adrien. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I help you break free from anxiety, fear, and shame by teaching you powerful tools rooted in scripture and psychology, healing minds, restoring faith, and renewing purpose. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I do think that love is enough for a relationship and a marriage to work. The issue is not that you need more things than love. The issue is that love is usually not there to begin with, not in its completeness. Love is an action, not a fuzzy feeling. And many times people mistake love to be just a fuzzy feeling and romantic feeling you have towards somebody. But that is not love in its completeness. When people say love is not enough, they then would follow up by saying you need communication skills, you need empathy, you need respect, you need to have care for the other person, you need to do these things for the other person. And then I'm confused because I'm like, yeah, all those things are an act of love. So it's not that love is failing, it's that human beings are failing to love. We just need to admit to ourselves that we are not good at it, because you need to know a problem exists before you can fix it, and we are blaming the wrong thing. And the reason why this bothers me to hear when people say that love is not enough is because then you're saying that the Bible is false and lying when it says that love never fails. And I do believe, as what the word of God said, I do believe that love never fails. Love in its completeness will never fail you, but we are never really loving people to its fullness and completeness, because love, yes, it does include feelings, but that's not all that it is. And I want to show you some places in the Bible that I feel that when you have all these things, your marriage will work. In Romans chapter 12, verse 10, it says, love one another with mutual affection, outdo one another in showing honor. So you outdoing each other and showing honor, outdoing each other and showing love. That means that you are going beyond, and it doesn't even have to be a competitive way where it's harmful, because that's not going to help either. But maybe seeing it like a fun game. My partner did this great thing for me. I want to do this great thing for my partner. My partner showed me this honor. I want to show my partner this honor. So it's constantly a back and forth of you outdoing each other and how to love one another. Never in the history of couples therapy, and I'm sure this is true for every couples therapist, we don't ever have a couple in front of us that's outdoing each other and showing love, honor, and affection. That is never usually the case, because if that was the case, you wouldn't even be in therapy, because the relationship probably would be working, because that would tell me that love is being worked on, love is present, and love is there. I get frustrated many times when I hear and see the way couples talk to each other. They lack empathy for each other. Their communication skill is terrible. And even worse is that they don't even want to work on it. Sometimes they come and they don't want to work on their communication skill. They don't want to work and learn how to be more empathetic to their partner. They don't want to learn how to speak their partner love language. They don't want to understand how their partner attaches or whatever it is. But then at the end of all that, they have the nerve to be like, yeah, but I love her though. Yeah, I love him though. And it's like, really? Do you? Are you sure that you really love this person? Because how can you say you love this person, but you don't care to do anything for this person? Because love is not selfish. Love thinks about the other person. But many times in these relationships, we like to say that love is not enough. We need these skills. And yes, you do need these skills, but those skills are an act of love. It's not that love is not enough. It's that love is not present. And we have a hard time knowing what it really means to love people, because we probably didn't learn how to love well when we were younger. And this is one of the reasons why I do like the way the Greek language breaks down love and the different depths of love, because they have different words for love that I think can also show a little bit more of the completeness of what love is. In the English language, when we say love, I think people only think of what the Greeks was called eros love. That's the passionate, romantic love. And I think this is what people think of as love. And so then when they say love is not enough, they're thinking of that passion, that spark. And yes, that is not enough. But that's, once again, is not love in its completeness. Love is more than just passion and romantic feelings. Because if that was all that love is, then that would mean that I can't love a stranger. That would mean that I can't love my family. That would mean I can't love my friends. But I do love them. That tells me that love is more than just a romantic feeling, because I don't have romantic feelings for those people. But however, I can still and do still show love to those people. But more times than not, I think in Western civilization, we are just focused on the eros love. But then there's also agape love. Agape love, we normally only usually attribute to God, because agape love is unconditional, selfless love, and spiritual love. Now, God completes this in its fullness. God loves us completely unselfishly and loves us unconditionally. And he is very selfless with his love. That's why he gave his life to us. But this is something that we should aspire to. Now, showing unconditional love is not easy. Many times people say love is not conditional. No, yes, love is conditional. It's just that your love hasn't been conditional. So once again, we have to stop attaching our definition to something and changing the definition of it. Because this person that you're with has made love conditional, does not mean that love is conditional. It means that they have made their love conditional, probably because of their upbringing and what they have learned about love. But true love is not conditional. I don't do things for the person that I love expecting something in return. Obviously, we do hope that the person will show us something in return. But however, I'm not going to do it based off of whether or not you do it for me. I'm going to do it, hope you love me back. And if you don't, then it's my decision to decide, do I want you in my life? And then there's philia love. This is the deep friendship, brotherly type of love and affection between close friends. This is the type of love that is mentioned when it comes to friendships and brotherly love and closeness, your besties. Then there's storge. I think I'm pronouncing that right. There's storge, which is natural affection and tenderness, especially familial love. So this is love like, that we might have for a family, a natural affection and tenderness, depending on your family. And then other words also include, but these are not the main four, but there are other words that also include, when I was doing my research, ludus, which is playful love and flirtatious love, pragma, which is the long-lasting, enduring love that has developed over time, and philatia, I want to say, which is self-love and can be a healthy self-compassion or a negative selfishness. But I would delete that negative selfishness, because selfishness is not love. If your self-love leads to selfishness, then it's not love. And then there's another, which is mania, which is obsessive love characterized by a deep imbalance and a sense of possession. That's another one that I would say is not part of love. That is, mania, that's a whole nother category. But if we think about the whole list of the love, all of these things can and should be present in a romantic relationship, in a marriage. You should not only have eros love, the passion and the romance, you should have agape love. You should try your best to be selfless, to love the other person and love the other person unconditionally. You should have a deep friendship as well. Most relationships that I know of that has lasted for a long time said that they lasted. One of the things that helped was having a deep friendship and being close friends with the person. Because when the fuzzy feelings are not there, or when the spark is dying out for a season, the friendship and that strong friendship helps keep the relationship strong and keep the love strong. And then when it comes to natural affection, tenderness, that definitely should also be a part of love. So all these things give a more complete idea of what love should look like when you look at the different words that is attributed to love in the Greek language. When we look at that, that gives us a more fullness of what loves look like. And like I said, all of those should be present in a relationship. All of those should be present in a marriage. And that shows you if love is fully present and if it's not just a feeling. And this is one of the reasons why often when I do counsel people and they're in a relationship with somebody, they're talking to somebody, I was like, always be careful of basing everything off of that spark. Most of the time people say, I don't know if I want to be with this person because I don't feel the spark. I don't feel a connection. But that spark, connection, and thing that you might be looking for might be based on trauma. You might actually be trauma bonding with the people that you do feel that spark with. You might actually be bonding with chaos. Many times there are people, if they were raised in chaos, if they learned love from chaos, so let's say their parents' love was chaotic, they say the relationship was inconsistent, they were divorced, they were separated, and they learned chaotic love, and let's say they had patterns of chaotic love in their lifetime, when you meet somebody who's inconsistent, toxic, and chaotic, it's going to cause a spark. It's going to cause a connection, not because that person is right for you, but because there's something unhealthy and unhealed that is causing that spark and connection to happen. So you can't really always trust that spark. This is one of the reasons why when people base love off of that, it's like your love is going to be faulty and not be on a good foundation, because that does not give good information, because there's many reasons why that spark could be happening, and it could be because of your trauma. And then in reverse, the person who doesn't bring that initial vibe or thing that you're looking for might actually be the person who's healthier for you, might actually be the person who is healthy, stable, emotionally available, might be consistent. But because your mind and body is not familiar with that, you see that as boring. We will see that as boring. I don't know if this relationship is going to work. But in the long term, that actually could be the better relationship for you. And that's why we cannot base love on just the feelings that we have on the inside, just on the spark and the vibes, because it could be coming from an unhealthy place. One of the reasons I think arranged marriages sometimes work, or why marriages where people just pretty much make a game plan and say, this is what we're going to do, and this is what I need, this is what you need. Can we fulfill it? Yes, no. A lot of times those marriages that are kind of designed in that way, the reason why they work is because, one, you set the expectation. So you know what it is that your partner wanted. And by saying yes, that means you bought into it. That means you said, okay, I can meet this need. And remember, love is supposed to be selfless. You're supposed to be caring for the need of the other person. And a lot of times, I think in arranged marriages, that's the focus. The focus is more so on how to make it work. They're not focused on the romantic feelings. But the romantic feelings many times can come. I have seen stories of people who had arranged marriages. They say, yeah, you don't feel that all that stuff in the beginning, but it did come over time. Because the thing is, when you start to love the person, those feelings will naturally come. And even in relationships, sometimes relationship dies because when the spark is gone, when that feeling is gone, people say, oh, I'm just not into the person anymore. It's like, no, it's not that you're not into the person anymore. All those chemicals that was helping you to be attracted to the person starting to die down now because they do have a certain lifespan. And now that it started, and I think the lifespan of the limerence stage, I think is about 6 months to 2 years. It starts to die down, but it doesn't mean that you're not into the person, that you don't care for the person, or you don't like the person, you're not attracted to the person anymore. It doesn't mean that this person is not good for you and right for you. It just means that now you need to do the work of love. You really need to do the work. And then when you do the work, that spark will come back. Oftentimes, when the spark leaves in relationship and marriages, people are ready to throw it away. And this is the way we are with everything. This is the type of world we live in. Whenever something doesn't work, we throw it away and get a new one. My phone has a little glitch. I'm gonna throw it away and get a new one. I'm not even gonna try to figure out what the glitch is and maybe I can fix it. Throw it away and get a new one. Anything that breaks nowadays, we usually just throw it away and get a new one. And unfortunately, we do the same thing in our relationships. Something goes wrong, we want to throw it away and get a new one as if that's going to make it better. But you're just going to keep yourself in a cycle of being in that limerence stage. It dies down and now you're in another relationship and another relationship. And you're never going to find a good lasting relationship that really builds a good bond of feeling trust and stability. So you have to do the work in order to get that spark back. And this is why many times I think people who are in arranged marriages like, yeah, that does come. That does come over time. It's not that we don't have a passion and love for each other. It just, that wasn't the focus in the beginning. And I think that's a good thing that's not the focus in the beginning, because that can be a distraction. Because as I stated earlier, many times those stuff in the beginning can be coming from unhealed places. And then we use that feeling to make us think that this is right for us, when many times it can be wrong for us. Because even if people may look at arranged marriage and say that, oh, that's not love, it's like, no, a lot of times it is, because many times those couples are focused on caring for each other. They are caring for the roles of each other and whatever it is that they agreed upon, and they are actually operating in love. Now, obviously, this is not the case for all arranged marriages. I'm not saying that all arranged marriages work right. I'm sure there are some of those that don't work well either. But however, there has been statistics that have shown that arranged marriages work better. Now, some people might argue and say, well, because they just don't believe in divorce. That's not exactly terrible either, because sometimes when you don't have this mindset of just, oh, I can just divorce and leave, then that might also push you to actually work towards it. Because once again, we live in a day and age where when something doesn't work, we want to throw it away. But however, sometimes having that mindset of like, I don't really want to get divorced might push you to be like, okay, let me really work this through, rather than just seeing divorce and separation as an easy out all the time. Because many times we are always looking for that easy out. And also, many times people cannot love each other well because they do not even love themselves. What is in the way is their past trauma and pain that's distorting how you hear your partner. It's distorting how you perceive your partner. It's distorting how you react to your partner. Then what happens with couples is they start treating each other like they're enemies, like as if their husband or their wife is their enemy. But then when you tell them that, they don't want to go to therapy, or they don't even want to work on it. They don't even want to heal themselves. So this tells me that you don't even love yourself enough to go get help and get healed, but yet you expect to be able to love your spouse. If you cannot love yourself well, you cannot love other people well. And this is another reason why I say that love is just not present. Because when you don't know how to love yourself, sometimes that can lead to defensiveness. And defensiveness, according to Dr. Gottman, is one of the things that can break down a relationship. Actually, Dr. John Gottman, who's a well-renowned psychologist, who's pretty much like the go-to for couples therapy because of his research on couples, helped him get a breakdown of what he calls the 4 horsemen of relationships. And he has about, I think, a pretty much like a 98% accuracy rate of knowing when a relationship is going to fail or not. And the 4 horsemen that he mentioned, that if these 4 are present, a relationship is always going to end, is defensiveness, stonewalling, criticism, and contempt. All of those show a lack of love. If you are contemptuous, first of all, if you're a partner, that's resentment and bitterness and can lead to hate. That's clear on how, if there's contempt for your partner, that means there's love lacking. Whatever it is that's causing that contempt needs to be addressed. Criticism can be a form of anger and also bitterness. If you're criticizing your partner and putting your partner down, that is also not an act of love, because the Bible tells me that love is supposed to build up. So if your words are constantly putting your partner down, then that means you are not loving your partner well. And then stonewalling is pretty much when you just shut down, don't want to talk, don't want to engage, and at its worst, sometimes just walk away in the middle while the person is talking. Now, if your partner is flooding you and it's just too much emotionally for you to handle, then the proper thing to do is to tell your partner, hey, can we just take a break from this conversation? This is a lot. I need some time to think. And then you go and think about it, and actually intentionally think about it. Don't go and distract yourself and do something else. Think about it and come back 20, 30 minutes later so that you can talk about what needs to be talked about now in a calmer state. Because many times what ends up happening too is we might use that to avoid. We say, I need to talk about it later, and then later never comes. And stonewalling too isn't a showing of like love is lacking, because when you just walk away or shut down, first of all, that's going to interfere with the connection you have with your partner. And it'll also be a sign sometimes that you just don't care to hear what your partner said. But like I said, sometimes it could just be that you're overwhelmed, which is fair. But the proper thing to do is to tell your partner that you need a break, because this is showing respect. So that's the thing. When we stonewall, it's a lack of respect, and love shows respect for others. If you're just walking away in the middle of conversation, that's a lack of respect for your partner who's talking to you. Instead, ask for a break, come back later, and talk about it. So that was contempt, criticism, stonewalling, and then we have defensiveness. Now, a lot of people get defensive, going back to what I said about because we make our partners our enemy. Our partners are talking about their grievances, and we hear that I'm being attacked. I'm the problem. I'm not good enough. And it's like, well, your partner didn't say that you're not good enough. If you're thinking that you're not good enough, that tells me that there's some childhood wounds there, some past wounds there that's affecting the way that you are hearing your partner, affecting the way that you're receiving what it is that your partner is saying. Because if your partner didn't say that you're not good enough, you feeling that you're not good enough is not your partner's fault. Now, sometimes people don't communicate things well. Sometimes they're too harsh. Sometimes they might be... But I always like to stay clear of the whole tone thing. People like to say, oh, your tone. But tone can also be received by somebody based off their own trauma, because everybody sees tone differently. There are some people, you can have a certain tone with them and they're used to that because their family talks like that. Some people, they come from a family, everybody's loud. So when you're loud, they don't think you're yelling. But then there's some people, they've been maybe in quiet families. So the minute you raise your voice a little bit, they think you're yelling at them. Even that in and of itself, when you're worried about somebody's tone, that's probably something, once again, deep within inside of you that needs to be worked on to figure out what is it about those tones that's constantly triggering me? Because we are responsible for our triggers, not other people. Oftentimes than not, when we are triggered, we say that person made me this way. That person did this to me. But it's like, no, you are responsible for your triggers. Now, of course, in its extreme sense, if the person is punching you, yelling at you, cursing you out, okay, it's fair to say that the person is responsible for what it is that you are feeling. But most of the time when we are triggered because of our own past feelings, traumas, thinking patterns that's filtering what it is that we are receiving to the person, which then makes us feel offended. And then when we feel offended, we feel the need to defend ourselves. And when we feel the need to defend ourselves, we are no longer listening to what the person is saying. And the person might be saying something that's actually not harmful and actually could be beneficial for not only the relationship, but even for you. But because you're in defense mode and you're offended, that makes it hard for you to hear. Because there is a scripture in Proverbs that says that a brother offended is hard to win. But that doesn't mean that human beings have to be on eggshells every time, being worried about not offending a brother so that we can win them over. It's just stating the fact that when a person gets to a place of where they're offended, you can't win them over. But however, that person's offense is their responsibility. That person being defensive is their responsibility. That person being triggered is their responsibility. It's their responsibility to understand why they're having this emotional reaction and then go heal what needs to be healed so that they're not having that emotional reaction. So here, this also shows how love, especially a lack of self-love, not healing your past problems, can cause defensiveness in a relationship, which then makes it difficult for you to understand your spouse, hear your spouse, and then be able to work through certain situations. We need to face the fact that human beings, all of us, myself included, we are not the greatest at showing love. We can live a whole lifetime and still have more about love that we can learn and show and do. And I say this because awareness is the first step to change. We have to be aware of what it is that we truly, really need instead of inventing problems that's not really there. I wanted to talk about what the Bible says about love and why I feel like once you actually exhibit what the Bible says about love, that your love will not fail, that the marriage will not fail. One of them I already shared in Romans chapter 12, where it says to outdo each other in love and in honor. And if you're focused on outdoing each other, then that will not fail you. This is kind of reminds me of love languages. When it comes to love languages, a lot of times people will marry somebody or be in a relationship with somebody who has a different love languages than them. So then it is your job to then learn your partner's love language. But this is also another issue that I see, that people don't want to do that. Then once again, I say, then don't say that you love this person because you can't say that you love this person. This person is telling you what their love language is. And you're just like, yeah, I don't care. That tells me that you're selfish. And if you're selfish, then first of all, you shouldn't probably even be in a relationship. And this is the thing too. And I also want to add this caveat, because when you think about it, when you get married, you go to the altar. The altar is a place where sacrifices are made. You have the divine there, you have a human partner, and then a sacrifice and exchange is made. So when we go to the altar, we are going before God and saying that I want to be with this person. What are you sacrificing? You are giving this person yourself, and that person is giving you themselves. So you are sacrificing yourself for each other. The husband body no longer belongs to the husband, it belongs to the wife, and the wife body no longer belongs to the wife, it belongs to the husband. Actually, you know what? I'm going to find that scripture for you. I think it's in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 4. It says, for the wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. Likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. A lot of people like to forget that second part, but we're not going to go into that today. But so it's saying that both parties do not have authority over their own bodies. It is for the other. So when you go to the altar, you are making a sacrifice that is a selfless act. But many people go to the altar and get married and leave the same selfish person that they were. They didn't make that sacrifice. They are not willing to sacrifice themselves for this person. They are not willing to relinquish some of their authority for this person. So then they go back into now the actual marriage and they wonder why it's failing. It's because you didn't make the sacrifice that you were supposed to make, that you promised to make when you were at that altar. When it comes to going back to the love languages, to say, well, I don't want to learn my partner's love language, it's like, that makes absolutely no sense. It's like, you're supposed to learn how to speak your partner's love language. So if your partner's love language is words of affirmation, but words of affirmation is hard for you, it's important to know sometimes why. Many times, the reason why sometimes we have a hard time speaking our partner's love language is because most of the time we just didn't grow up with that. Sometimes words of affirmation is just weird to us. We didn't grow up in a family where they showed affection with words all the time. But that doesn't mean you cannot learn it. Anything can be learned. And things can also be unlearned. If your partner's love language is words of affirmation and your partner's love language is acts of service, most people always speak the love language that they want. So the person who wants words of affirmation probably will be very affectionate with their words and always say nice complimentary things to their partners. And the one who wants acts of service, more times than not, are probably performing acts of service for their partner. But then it's important for each partner to then do it for each other. Learn how to give compliments to your partner. Learn how to do acts of service. Then some people say, well, it feels forced, but love is work. Love is an action. See, once again, we see love as just a fuzzy feeling, but no, love is work. You have to work to learn how to love this person. And it is going to feel funny in the beginning, but it feels funny in the beginning learning any language. If I was going to learn how to speak Japanese, I'm not going to get it right away. It's a different language. I'm going to mess up a lot. It's going to feel weird. It's going to feel funny. I'm going to get frustrated. But if I keep going, then eventually I can learn how to speak fluent Japanese. It's the same thing with the love languages. Even if I may not be fluent in speaking words of affirmation, if I keep trying, if I keep working at it, keep trying to see, okay, how does this work for my partner? How does my partner take to some of the words that I've been trying out? And sometimes it's good to make a list. You might start trying out certain words and you notice, oh, okay, they really liked it when I said this to them. Or they really like it when I did this for them. Or they really like this gift that I gave them. Take note of it. Or they really liked when I spent like quality time in this way, because sometimes we might also define it our own way. We might say, well, I did give words of affirmation. And their partner's like, no, when did you do that? But we cannot just define it our way. We have to see what way does our partner receive it? Because sometimes to us, quality time could be doing something grandiose. And all your partner wants is for you to sit with them on the couch and watch TV with them and have a conversation. So it's important to also know how does your partner receive it and take note. Take note to see, okay, this is how my partner receive it. Keep practicing it. And then eventually you will become fluent in that language. And then both parties will be filling each other's love tank, as they call it. And then that would not fail. Because once again, I've never seen a relationship falling apart where both partners are constantly learning each other's love language, speaking each other's love language. Most of the time, that's not present in relationship that's falling apart. And you have to be willing to do that because love is work. But many times we don't want to do the work that it takes to really love somebody. We just want to receive the love, but a lot of times we don't want to give the love. Going back to what I said about selfishness. And then we're going to go to 1 Corinthians chapter 13. 1 Corinthians chapter 13 have a full list of what love really is. And starting in verse 4, it says, love is patient. Are you patient with your partner? Are you giving them time? Because going back to the love languages, sometimes your partner's going to need you to be patient with them while they're learning. So try to meet them halfway. Don't keep complaining all the time, especially if you see them making effort. Instead, encourage them, help them out. Say, hey, I really liked what you did for me last night. I really like what you said. I really like the way you complimented me. Encourage them because they're going to need that encouragement because they're not used to this love language. So they need your help and encouragement, and they need you to be patient with them if they are actually really trying. And there are many other things that your partner might need you to be patient with as well. Are we willing to be patient with our partner with whatever it is that they're struggling with or learning, especially if they actually put in the effort in? The issue is if they're not putting the effort in. And to be honest, if the person's not putting the effort in, you probably shouldn't have married them. You probably shouldn't. And if you're in a dating phase, then maybe you should reconsider whether or not this relationship is right for you. Now, you might say, well, that's not being patient, but you got to do with what you got. Like you have to ask yourself the question, can I live with this for the rest of my life? Because the thing is, you can't force people to change. You shouldn't try to force people to change. You don't know if this person is going to change. So yes, that's why I say in the dating phase, if you don't see this, then it might be good to say like, this person's not even, especially like I said, if they're not even trying. If they're trying, that's a different story. You might say, you know what, the person's trying. I'm willing to be patient to help to see it through. If the person's not even trying, then you might have to ask yourself the question, is this really what I want? Now, if the person's not even trying and you're already married, now that's a little bit more difficult. And I'm not going to quickly just say, go get a divorce. So maybe you do need to just practice even more patient and go to the Lord to help you with whatever you're dealing with in your marriage. And then it says love is kind. Are you kind to your partner? Kindness is when you do things that benefit somebody else. This goes back to outdoing each other in love and honor. This shows up in whatever it is that your partner need. Are you being kind? Are you putting them first? If you know that it would be beneficial for them to, let's say, I don't know. I'm thinking of an example right now. Let's say your wife would be better off staying at home after pregnancy. Maybe she's dealing with postpartum depression. And let's say you are a man who you do have the financial means. Maybe it might make things a little bit tight, but you do have the financial means for your wife to stay home a little bit longer as she works through what she's going through after having a baby. But if you're just selfish and say, no, we don't have enough money, we can't do this, yada, 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 that's not being very kind. Now, the end result and the plan, that's not what I'm focused on. Are you even kind enough to try to understand your partner? Are you even kind enough to try to understand what will benefit them? Are you trying to be kind and understand what is it that they need, and vice versa? It has to go both ways, because when it doesn't go both ways, resentment and anger starts to build up. It also says that love is not envious or boastful or arrogant. Arrogant and prideful people is always going to be hard to love, because arrogant and prideful people usually don't take accountability, can't see what they're doing wrong, and work on themselves. If you're arrogant, it's going to be hard for you to love somebody, because arrogant people also tend to be very selfish. It is also not envious and boastful. Now, believe it or not, sometimes some couples are envious and jealous of each other. Sometimes people make their partner their competition, and they don't like it when their partner is winning. But the thing is, if you don't like it when your partner is winning, then are you sure you really love your partner? That's how you know who your friends really are. See the way they are when you're winning. Are they celebrating with you, or are they wishing that for your downfall and wishing that you would be second? And it's the same thing when it comes to romantic relationships. Is this partner excited when you win, or are they secretly wishing that you will fail, or at least just be under them? Because this does happen in relationships. Sometimes partners are not happy when their partner is winning and doing well, which makes no sense because, especially as a married couple, if my partner is doing well, that means I'm doing well. And if I'm doing well, my partner's doing well. Remember, because the two of you are one. But unfortunately, when you don't have that mindset, you have a selfish mindset. When your partner is doing well, it might be hard for you to accept it and you might become envious. And if you are envious, then that means you're not operating in love. It says that love is also not rude. Are you rude in the way that you talk to your partner? Are you constantly criticizing them? Are you constantly putting them down? Are you rude in the way that you speak and say certain things to them? Sometimes some people are very rude to their partners and they're sometimes just downright mean and calling their partners stupid, calling their partners all sorts of names, even unprovoked. Sometimes the partner's not even provoking. It's not even in the middle of an argument. They're just being very rude to their partner. And if you're rude to your partner, then love is not present. And it says love does not insist on its own way. Once again, love is not selfish. It does not insist only on its own way. So as a partner, as a married couple, you should be not only insisting on your own way, but also trying to understand your partner, your spouse, and what do they think? Taking what they think into consideration in a relationship and in a marriage before making a final decision. Love is not selfish. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable. If you're irritated with your partner all the time, that's also a bad sign. Love keeps no record of wrong. That's another thing in relationships. Sometimes we keep all the records of all the wrongs that our partners did and we never let it go. Now, I want to be fair. Sometimes it's hard to let it go because, unfortunately, sometimes people are in situations where the partner is still cheating. They're not even sure if the partner has stopped. So it's hard for them to let go of all the things in the past because it's technically still happening. Present part of the relationship that needs to be worked on. But let's say your partner cheated. It is in the past. They're doing everything they can to prove to you they're not cheating. They're doing all the right stuff. They're actually being transparent. They're telling you where they are. They're being open with who they're talking to. They're not hiding their phone and doing that childish thing where they're like, why do you need my password? They're not doing none of that. They're doing everything to make you, to help you to trust them again. And you start realizing you can trust them again. But then if you don't let go of that record of wrong in the past, it's going to sneak back up. And it's going to cause resentment. It's going to cause bitterness. And then once again, it's going to take the love you have for your partner away, which then can cause issue in the relationship. Love does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. There should be truth and honesty in a relationship because that helps build trust. And you can't have a relationship without trust. If you can't trust the person that you're with, that relationship is definitely going to fall apart. And when love is present, you should be able to trust the person. Trust is always important when it comes to a relationship. Love bears all things, believe all things, hope all things, endure all things. Now, this is tricky because some people might say, well, then am I supposed to bear and endure abuse? No, because abuse is not love. Your partner is not showing you love if they are abusive. And if you're in the primary stages of a relationship, you haven't gotten married yet, you know the signs of abuse. Yes, get away. Actually, even if you're married, try to get away. Because love is not in that relationship. There is no love present. Believe all things. Does it say that you must believe everything, even a lie? No, because love is in the truth, and love is truth, and hope all things. So these are different things that the Bible tells us about what love is, and it has to be on both sides for it to work. It can't just be on only one side. And it ends in verse 8 and says, "Love never fails." I believe this is true. Love does not fail. Now, some translations say love never ends. This is also true. Love does not end because love is continuous work. It doesn't end. You don't just love somebody and then that's it. Every single day you wake up, you have to make the choice of, do I want to love this person? Because sometimes it's not black and white. Sometimes you could have 6 months, you were doing great loving this person. And then you faltered a little bit. Does that mean you don't care for the person completely gone and at the end of the marriage? No, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to falter. But love is the choice we make every single day. That Tuesday that you decided to go cheat on your spouse, you did not love your spouse. I don't understand why people will say, once again, this is another thing that irritates me, when people are out there cheating on their partner and say, but I love them though. You do not love your partner if you're constantly cheating on your partner. How in the world is when you're out there sleeping with somebody else, are you being kind? Are you being, that's pretty rude. And how is that you not thinking of your own interests? How is that you not being selfish? To say that you love somebody while you're cheating on them is just not congruent. That's not consistent. you do not love this person. You might have lust for this person. You might have some passion for this person. You might care about the person to some degree, but do not say that you fully love this person, because love is not fully there if adultery is happening. That's another thing that I say oftentimes that sometimes people don't agree with, but hey, I don't care. I think it's true. There is never in a time in my life where I will be okay with telling somebody who's cheating on me that, oh, but I know you love me though. No, you do not love me. You didn't love me when you was with that other woman on Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Now, when you bought me flowers, did that mean that you love me? No, because maybe you bought me flowers because you felt guilty. So even the things that sometimes cheaters do after the fact, you might say, but you see, these are showing me that he loves me. No, it could just be because he feels guilty. Or maybe because he just knows he has to placate you for some time to continue living his lifestyle. There could be a plethora of reasons why sometimes people do certain things. And that's another reason why sometimes those material things alone cannot be how we define if somebody loves us. Love in its totality has to be looked at. Oftentimes we take fractions of love and we don't look at the full picture. Yes, the person is doing certain things for you, but are they kind to you? Are they loving to you? Are they constantly criticizing you and putting you down, or encouraging you and putting you up? Because many times the gifts and the trips and all these things could be smoke and mirrors. It could be something to just distract you and make you feel like you're in a loving relationship when the person's actually treating you terribly. All in all, this is one of the reasons why I do not agree when people say that love is not enough. Love is enough for a relationship and a marriage to last, is that we do not learn to love well. And we do not learn how to love well because most of us don't learn how to love from our childhood, because we were not properly loved by our parents, or we didn't see proper relationships when we were growing up. Maybe our parents were divorced or separated or terrible to each other, or we've been terrible relationships in the past, and we haven't even learned how to love ourselves. If you haven't learned how to love yourself, it's going to be almost impossible for you to learn how to love other people. There are many different things that are in play that's making it hard for you to love the person that you are with. And when you do the work on yourself, when you do the work to love yourself, to repair your past traumas that's informing your present relationship in a way that's harming your present relationship, then love will not fail you. When you do the work to understand what love really means, doing all the things that's required, because love never ends. Love is work that you do every single day. Love is learning how to respect your partner, be kind to your partner, communicate with your partner, be empathetic to your partner. All those things are an act of love. When you do have love in your relationship, your love would not fail. And if your relationship is failing, then maybe you should ask yourself the question, am I failing to love? And if you are failing to love, and if you're willing to be honest with yourself, go back to the Word of God, see what love really is, and start to ask yourself the question, am I lacking in some of these things? Is my partner lacking in some of these things? Can we really talk about it together and maybe see and have this awareness and say, you know what? Some of these things are lacking in our relationship. Let us work on it so that our relationship can be better, and so that our relationship can actually really truly be rooted in love, because love is transformative. If love from a human being can change us and transform us, then just imagine how much more the love of God can change and transform us. And this is one of the reasons why the minimization of love, I think, is very dangerous, because God is a God of love. And many times we have a hard time as human beings understanding and really receiving that love, because love has been so tainted in this world. Love has been downplayed, minimized, sometimes used against us in this world. So when we hear about the love of God, it's hard for us to understand how great and wonderful that is, because from what we think, love has never been so great for us in this earth. But however, many times on this earth, we are not actually experiencing the fullness of love. But with God, you can experience the fullness of love. And human love can be very transformative, and God's love is even more transformative. So when you do experience the love of God, you will see the way that it starts to transform your life. And I know this because this is how it was for me. When I met the Lord, He transformed my life. The Lord is who taught me how to love myself. And when I started how to learn how to love myself, I was able to heal my past. And then I was able to love who I am now, which makes me so much more in love with who I am becoming and my future. So when the love of God comes in you, it would cause a self-love that would then help you to love other people. I love other people so much more because of the love that I have for myself that I want to pour out to other people. Because as a therapist, one of the things that I have the joy of doing is holding space for people in a way that I sometimes felt like I lacked that space when I was younger. I like to give to people what it is that I know that they might be lacking, because I know what it feels like to lack in those areas. God loved me so much that led me to love myself, that I can love people better. And then I learned how to love God more and better. And the cycle continues because love never ends. So I'm forever growing in my love for God, my love for myself, and my love for other people. If this was helpful for you, consider sharing it with somebody else that you think it would help. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Do you believe love is enough to make a relationship work? Why or why not? I would love to hear what you think. Like, subscribe, and until next time, take care.